had the local police in many towns looking for them. When he was in West Virginia and Ohio, people would call his hotel and tell them that the MIB were there. He'd race over to the location, but they would be gone by the time he arrived. John Keel said that the MIB were mainly reported to drive black Cadillacs until he started doing articles about the MIB driving these cars. At which point they are said to have switched to Volkswagens. The cars they would drive often had license plates that had never been issued to anyone. A mysterious blonde woman in her 30s with a southern accent visited people in West Virginia and Ohio whom Keel had interviewed. She even visited those he had not mentioned in print. She introduced herself claiming to be John Keel's secretary, thus winning instant admission. The clipboard she carried held a complicated form filled with personal questions about the witnesses' health, income and the type of cars they owned, as well as their general family background, and some fairly sophisticated questions about their UFO sightings. John Keel didn't learn about this woman until months later when his one of friends in Ohio wrote to him and happened to mention her. One afternoon in spring of 1967, John Keel and a female friend were walking along 42nd and 3rd Avenue, NY, when a stranger with a pointed face deliberately took a photo of them and then turned and ran away. The man was wearing a poorly fitting sports jacket and slacks. The men in black, MIB, are humans or humanoids who supposedly appear anywhere major UFO sightings or other strange phenomena take place. They have been known to threaten people who have claimed to have seen UFOs and alien beings into not asking about what they witnessed. They wear sunglasses and black suits, usually they have olive complexions. They drive black mint condition vintage luxury cars or fly in black helicopters. Some say that they are government agents, others claim that they are alien agents. The first reported occurrence of MIB was traced to Albert K. Bender, the editor of a flying saucer publication called the Space Review. In the October 1953 issue, he placed an announcement stating that he had come across information that would solve the flying saucer mystery but could not print it because he was ordered not to. He ended the announcement warning others in saucer work to be very cautious. He then stopped publication. Later in an interview, Bender stated that 3 men wearing dark suits had ordered him to stop publishing flying saucer material, and that he had complied with the order because he had been scared to death of them. He later published a book called Flying Saucers and the Three Men. In his book, Mystery of the Men in Black, the UFO Silencers, Timothy Beckley has attempted to provide an overview of important and representative MIB encounters. According to Beckley, MIB have been with us for many hundreds of years, speculating that such diverse characters from the history of witchcraft and folklore as the Elizabethan black men, the native 17th century reports of malevolent traveling salesmen, might have been manifestations of what we now know as men in black. An odd incident in the history of the men in black is the strange case of Mr. O.H. Krill. Mr. Krill's writings first gained publicity sometime in the late 1980s when a text file called the Krill Papers was placed on the Paranet BBS. The file told the story of shadow governments in cooperation with gray aliens, secret underground bases, exchanges of human organs for alien technologies, and the like. He offers the following information on the men in black. All things considered, UFO research has become pretty much of a circus today, and the most intriguing and controversial sideshow skirting the edges is the question of the silencers, or the mysterious men in black. There is a strong subliminal appeal in these accounts of visits by mysterious dark-suited figures. I have been visited myself, as have others I've known, attempting to silence UFO witnesses. A typical situation would be that a witness has a UFO sighting or UFO-related experience. Shortly thereafter he is visited by one or more odd-looking men who relate to him the minutest details of his experience, even though he has as yet told no one for fear of ridicule or other reasons. The men warn him about spreading the story of his experience around and sometimes even threaten him personally, sometimes obliquely, sometimes directly. Any evidence, if it exists, is confiscated in one way or another. Sometimes the visit is for some totally meaningless reason and the subject of UFOs is hardly mentioned, if at all. But again, the men all seem to look alike. We actually seem to find ourselves in close proximity to beings who obviously must be directly connected in some way with the objects themselves or the source behind them, yet they seem to be functioning unobtrusively within the framework of our own everyday existence. The classic conception of an MIB is a man of indefinite age, medium height and dressed completely in black. He always has a black hat and often a black turtleneck sweater. They present an appearance often described as strange or odd. They speak in a dull monotone voice, like a computer, and are dark complected with high cheekbones, thin lips, pointed chin, and eyes that are mildly slanted. The visitors themselves are often on absurd missions. They have reportedly posed as salesmen, telephone repairmen or representatives from official or unofficial organizations. Their mode of transportation is usually large and expensive cars, Buicks or Lincolns, sometimes Cadillacs, all black, of course. I might note at this point that their physical appearance also has included beings that have pale grayish skin, and that some of them have been seen to have blonde hair, yet they wear the clothing and drive the cars previously described. Their cars often operate with the headlights off, but ghostly purple or greenish glows illuminate the interior. Unusual insignia have been seen emblazoned on the doors and the license plates are always unidentifiable or untraceable. The fabric of their clothes has been described as strangely shiny or thin, but not silky, almost as if they have been cut from a new type of fabric. Their often mechanical behavior has caused them to be described by some as being like robots or androids. A lot of descriptions of some of these folks are pretty bizarre. A businessman's family in Wildwood, New Jersey, was visited by an unusually large man whose pants legs hiked up when he sat down, revealing a green wire grafted onto his skin and running up his leg. There are other cases of MIB appearing on the other side of a wet, muddy field after a heavy rain, but having no mud whatever on their brightly shined shoes and in the bitter cold, out of nowhere, wearing only a thin coat. Their shoes and wallets all seem new and hardly broken in. O.H. Krill's career was ended by John Lear when he made a television appearance with William Cooper. Lear was the son of the famous aviation engineer, heir to the Learjet Company. He claimed that his business connections with the military had given him access to secret Air Force documents related to UFOs. He had posted to Paranet his own UFO files, which were also full of secret alien government conspiracies. Cooper claimed to be a high-ranking naval intelligence officer, though records show that he was never anything more than an audio-visual technician for a Pacific Fleet briefing team. Lear heard William Cooper use the O.H. Krill name, while John Lear wanted to use the show to announce that he made the O.H. Krill paper as a joke together with John Grace, head of the Nevada Aerial Research Organization. William Cooper went on to claim that he had first seen the Krill papers in the early 1970s while working for the Office of Naval Intelligence. John Lear immediately pulled William Cooper aside and quietly told him, "Bill, O.H. Krill is a joke." Lear says that he and John Grace had used the name Krill from Bob Emenegger's special UFOs. It has begun in the TV special. A woman claims to have channeled an entity named Cryll. They had posted the file on Paranet as a prank. William Cooper replied that Lear was mistaken. He said that Lear was a liar and continued to do so until the day he died. Cooper was known to accuse all who disagree with him of being agents working for the conspiracy. Note, on November 5, 2001, Cooper was fatally shot by a law enforcement officer at his Eager, Arizona home after confronting deputies trying to arrest him and shooting one of them in the head. Authorities said the handgun-toting Cooper fled when Apache County deputies identified themselves and tried to arrest Cooper on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and endangerment stemming from earlier disputes with local residents. Cooper spent years trying to avoid capture on a 1998 arrest warrant for tax evasion and, according to a spokesman for the U.S. Marshals Service, vowed he would not be taken alive. Lear and Grace did not pull the Krill files entirely out of thin air. It was really a satire of the most extreme and bizarre UFO stories that circulated among the circles of UFO enthusiasts. If the descriptions of MIB are not directly from real stories from alleged witnesses, they at least bear a resemblance to some of the weirdest accounts. And many people did believe in the Krill files for a long time. Copies of the files are still to be found on the internet. These files have had an influence on the public perception of the Men in Black legend and have almost certainly affected popular culture. John A. Keel's 1975 book The Mothman Prophecies is a great book regardless of your beliefs. Much of it focuses on the MIBs. They are definitely not simply agents of the government in this one. These excerpts from the Christensen family's meeting with one will attest to that. They had just moved into a new home and had not yet been published in the phone book. A visitor came to the door, asked for Edward Christensen by name. The huge man, at least 6'6", 2 meters tall, and very broad-shouldered, said he was from the Missing Heirs Bureau. Note, the Christensen encounter. In 1967, the Christensen family from New Jersey, USA, had a bewildering encounter with a hovering UFO. Shortly afterwards, they were visited by a strange man in black wearing a badge engraved with unusual insignia. Inviting himself inside, the man proceeded to question the family for nearly an hour. They described him as massively tall, wearing a long black coat and a Russian-style fur hat complete with dark visor. Most frightening of all were his ominously bulging eyes and tinny computer-like voice. The family also noticed what appeared to be wires running down the inside of the man's leg. Wires that actually appeared to penetrate the skin and were held in place by a large round spot. When the man left the house, he walked to the edge of the pavement, where he was picked up by a black Cadillac with dimmed headlights and tinted glass windows. An unusual head, large and round, while his face seemed angular, pointed. His eyes were large, protruding, like "thyroid eyes, and set wide apart. One eye appeared to have a cast, like a glass eye, and did not move in unison with its companion. When he sat down, they could see a long, thick green wire attached to the inside of his leg. It came up out of his socks and disappeared under his trousers. At one point it seemed to be indented into his leg and was covered by a large brown spot. The Christensens said their visitor had an unusual pallor. They assumed he was sick. His voice was also strange, with a high tinny voice. He spoke in clipped words and phrases, like a computer.